The bread crust scraped against my lips as my brother forced the sandwich toward my mouth. Around us, the cafeteria froze into a tableau of horrified faces and jeering smiles. In the millisecond before contact, time stretched like pulled taffy, my vision tunneling to show only Noah's triumphant smirk and the peanut butter oozing from between white bread slices. "Just one bite," he taunted, his voice carrying across the suddenly silent room. "Prove you're not lying about this allergy nonsense." My desperate backward jerk sent my chair screeching against linoleum, but strong hands gripped my shoulders from behind. When I gasped in protest, a microscopic fragment of peanut butter touched my tongue. The effect was immediate, a tingling that spread like wildfire across my mouth. Noah stepped back, arms raised in mock victory to his football teammates. "See? Nothing happened. Just like Mom said, attention-seeking as usual." But something was happening. My tongue was swelling against my teeth. Each breath grew shallower than the last, the fluorescent lights above pulsing in sync with my racing heartbeat. The cafeteria's ambient noise distorted, underwater and distant, as my fingers scrabbled uselessly at my closing throat. "My name is Olivia, I'm 13, and this is the story of how I transformed from a voiceless victim into the architect of my family's reckoning." For years, my existence had been defined by what I wasn't, not athletic like Noah, not confident, not normal. My documented peanut allergy was treated as an inconvenient fiction, despite the pediatrician's diagnosis and prescription for an EpiPen my mother had forgotten to fill 3 separate times. My medical alert bracelet had mysteriously disappeared during laundry day last month. The school administration had never been notified of my condition because, as my mother explained, we don't coddle hypochondria in this family. That morning had begun like so many others, with my mother's dismissal. I'd watched her spread peanut butter across white bread, my stomach nodding as she packed it into my lunch bag. "Mom, please," I'd whispered. "I can't eat this. You know I'm allergic." She'd slammed the refrigerator door, the family photos on its surface rattling. "This nonsense about peanut allergies has gone on long enough, Olivia. Your brother eats peanut butter every day and he's fine." That was the story of my life. Everything was fine because perfect, football star Noah was fine. My medical needs were attention-seeking. My fear was melodrama. Now, as my airway constricted in the middle of the school cafeteria, the years of disbelief crystallized into this single, life-threatening moment. Through rapidly blurring vision, I saw Mrs. Reynolds, the lunch monitor, glance our way before deliberately turning her attention elsewhere. Nobody ever challenged Noah. He was the school's golden boy, destined for athletic scholarships and hometown glory. "Oh, come on," Noah rolled his eyes as I wheezed. "Stop pretending." A new voice cut through the chaos. "She's having an allergic reaction." Patricia, my lab partner, pushed through the crowd. One look at my face and she dropped her backpack, digging frantically inside. "Someone get the nurse." "She's faking," Noah insisted, but uncertainty crept into his voice as Patricia pulled out an EpiPen. "I carry a spare," she explained, her hands steady as she prepared the injection. "Hold on, Olivia." The last thing I registered before consciousness slipped away was Noah's voice, higher now, frightened. "Come on, she's just looking for attention." When I opened my eyes, I was in an ambulance, oxygen mask covering my face. The paramedics had been called immediately after Patricia administered the EpiPen, as school protocol required for any severe allergic reaction. Through the haze, I heard phrases that would change everything: severe anaphylaxis, and could have been fatal. What nobody knew yet, not even me, was that this incident had been captured on the cafeteria's security cameras. Not just my reaction, but everything leading up to it. Noah's taunting, his friends holding me down, the forced exposure to an allergen that could have killed me. 3 days later, I sat propped up in a hospital bed, throat still raw from intubation, when Principal Fernandez arrived with a tablet in hand. My parents had been there earlier, mother insisting it was just a panic attack until confronted with blood test results and throat-swelling photos. They'd left to handle things at home, which likely meant damage control. "Olivia," Principal Fernandez said softly, pulling up a chair. "How are you feeling?" I touched my still-swollen throat, grateful for the ice chips the nurse had provided. "Better." She nodded, placing the tablet on my bedside table. "We need to talk about what happened in the cafeteria." She paused, her expression hardening. "And about what's been happening all year." The heart monitor betrayed my spike in anxiety with accelerated beeping. "After your incident, our security team reviewed our surveillance footage per district policy for medical emergencies," she continued. "We found something disturbing. Multiple incidents, actually." She turned the tablet toward me. The screen showed clips from various dates: Noah throwing peanut M&M/MS at my lunch table, his friends accidentally spilling peanut sauce near my food, my brother sneaking peanut butter into my drinks when I wasn't looking. This wasn't the first time, was it? She asked gently. Tears welled up. Nobody believed me, I whispered. They said I was making it up. A new voice came from the doorway. Well, we believe you now. Dr. Jameson, the hospital's child advocacy specialist, walked in with a social worker, Ms. Garcia. Your blood tests show repeated exposure to peanut allergens, Dr. Jameson explained, checking my chart. Small amounts building up over time. That's why Tuesday's reaction was so severe. Your body had been fighting this for months. Ms. Garcia sat beside my bed. Olivia, we've spoken with your lab partner Patricia, who was interviewed as a witness by the hospital staff yesterday. She told us you've asked your parents for an EpiPen multiple times. I nodded, remembering all the dismissed prescriptions, lost referrals to allergists, my mother's insistence that I was just jealous of Noah's normal life. Your pediatrician's office has records of 3 separate prescriptions for EpiPens, Ms. Garcia continued. None were ever filled. They also have documentation of your mother cancelling 2 appointments with an allergy specialist. Principal Fernandez touched my hand. The school was never notified of your allergy. We are required to have medical action plans for students with severe allergies. Your mother told us you were just a picky eater when we asked about your lunch concerns. The weight of years of dismissal, of being told I was dramatic or attention-seeking, crashed over me. Are they going to make me go home? I asked, voice trembling. No, sweetheart, Dr. Jameson said firmly. What your family has done is medical neglect, combined with the evidence of your brother's deliberate actions. She shook her head. You're not going anywhere until we ensure your safety. As if on cue, we heard Noah's loud voice in the hallway. It was just a joke. She's fine, isn't she? Principal Fernandez stood, face stern. Excuse me. She stepped out, closing the door behind her. Through the door, I heard snippets: suspension, potential legal consequences, pattern of behavior. Legal consequences. My mother's voice shrill with disbelief. For what? She's attention-seeking, just like always. Ms. Garcia pulled out some papers. Olivia, we need to discuss your options. Your emergency contact information listed your pediatrician and your aunt in Oregon. We've already reached her by phone using the number from your school records. Aunt Kimberly. I hadn't seen Dad's younger sister in years, not since she tried to tell my parents something was wrong with how they treated me. She's waiting for our call, Ms. Garcia smiled. She's already making arrangements to fly in tomorrow morning. Just then, Patricia appeared in the doorway, clutching her backpack. Her eyes widened at all the adults, but Dr. Jameson waved her in. I brought your homework, Patricia said, then added quickly, and my mom made you some allergen-free cookies. I checked everything twice. For the first time since the cafeteria, I felt like crying for a good reason. Someone had actually thought about what was safe for me. Thank you, I whispered. For everything. The EpiPen. Patricia shrugged. That's what friends do. They believe each other. The contrast between her simple acceptance and my family's years of denial hit hard. Outside, Noah was still protesting, Mom demanding to speak to supervisors, Dad talking about lawyers. But in this room, with these people who believed me, who had proof of what I'd been saying all along, their voices seemed less powerful. That night, as silence settled over my hospital room, I made my first decision as the new Olivia. I would never again be the family scapegoat. The security footage had given me something invaluable, evidence. And I intended to use it. The next morning, I asked to see the complete footage. Principal Fernandez hesitated, concerned about traumatizing me further, but I insisted. I need to see what they can't deny anymore. The videos were worse than I imagined, not just the incidents themselves, but the calculated nature of them. In one clip, Noah laughed with his friends while mixing peanut residue into my water bottle. In another, he deliberately contaminated my lunch while checking to ensure no teachers were watching. I want copies, I said quietly. Olivia, the police and child services already have everything they need, Principal Fernandez explained. So do I. My voice sounded different, even to my own ears. Stronger. There are more people who need to see this. That afternoon, I created 3 emails from my hospital bed with Patricia's help. She had brought her laptop during visiting hours, and I used my school account to send them. The first went to every member of the school board, with clips showing not just Noah's actions, but Mrs. Reynolds and other staff deliberately looking away. The subject line, Systemic Failure to Protect Students, a Documentation. The second went to my parents' entire social circle, the church committee mom chaired, dad's business partners, Noah's football coach. I had their emails from years of group messages and birthday invitations that I'd been copied on. Subject, The Truth About the Daniels Family. Attached were the medical reports showing years of untreated allergic reactions, alongside footage of my brother's deliberate actions. The third email went to just one person, my grandmother, who controlled the family trust fund that paid for Noah's private training and my parents' country club membership. The same grandmother who had been told I was making up stories for attention. By evening, my hospital room phone was ringing constantly. I didn't answer. Instead, I worked with Ms. Garcia to finalize my temporary placement with Aunt Kimberly, who had arrived that morning and was staying at a hotel nearby while completing emergency guardianship paperwork. 3 months later, after multiple court hearings that granted Aunt Kimberly full legal custody pending family court review in 1 year, I stood in her kitchen in Portland, carefully reading food labels with her as we prepared dinner. This had become our ritual, a sharp contrast to my old life where checking ingredients was dismissed as paranoia. "How was the allergist appointment?" she asked, placing safe ingredients in one pile and setting aside anything questionable. "Good," I smiled, touching the medical alert bracelet I now wore proudly. "Dr. Wilson says my immune system is stabilizing since I'm not getting constant exposure anymore." The changes since the cafeteria incident were dramatic but positive. Aunt Kimberly had received emergency temporary custody after the hospital incident, which was formalized into a longer-term arrangement after the family court hearing last month. Her home in Portland, with its strict attention to my medical needs and calm atmosphere, felt like breathing fresh air after years of suffocation. My new school had a comprehensive allergy protocol. The nurse kept my EpiPens, yes, multiple, in her office, and all my teachers were trained in anaphylaxis response. My condition was treated as what it was, a serious medical issue, not an inconvenience or bid for attention. The family trust fund had been restructured after grandmother's visit to Portland last month. Noah's private training was gone, replaced with therapy sessions the court mandated after his expulsion. The school board had completed their investigation, resulting in formal reprimands for Mrs. Reynolds and 2 other staff members who had failed to respond appropriately. The family home had been sold to pay legal fees and medical bills. My parents now lived in a small apartment, their social standing decimated by the evidence I'd made public. My phone buzzed with a text from my father, the first direct contact since the hospital. They were in family therapy, he explained, as part of the court-mandated reunification plan. Their therapist thought it might be good for me to attend a session, when you're ready. Those were the key words, when you're ready. Here, nobody pushed me into anything, especially regarding my family. "Maybe someday," I told Aunt Kimberly. "But not yet." She nodded, understanding as always. "No rush. By the way, your art teacher called. She wants to enter your latest piece in the state competition." My art had transformed since coming here. The piece she mentioned was a mixed media work titled Invisible Symptoms, a visual representation of living with a dismissed medical condition. It was raw and honest, nothing like the safe, pleasant paintings I'd done back home to avoid drawing attention. "You know what's weird?" I said, returning to my carrot peeling. "I haven't had a single panic attack since moving here." Aunt Kimberly understood the air quotes around panic attack. What my parents had dismissed as anxiety had actually been allergic reactions all along. "Not so weird," she replied. "Amazing how much better you feel when you're not being poisoned." That evening, as we sat down to our safely prepared dinner, my phone lit up with a text from Noah. These were rare. He wasn't supposed to contact me directly without supervision, part of the court's requirements following the juvenile diversion program he entered. Instead of facing more serious consequences. "I'm sorry," it read simply. "I didn't understand what I was doing to you." I showed it to Aunt Kimberly, who had become my sounding board for all things family-related. "What do you think?" She considered it carefully. "I think genuine remorse is possible. Their therapist thought it might be good for me to attend a session, when you're ready." Those were the key words, when you're ready. Here, nobody pushed me into anything, especially regarding my family. "Maybe someday," I told Aunt Kimberly. "But not yet." She nodded, understanding as always. "No rush. By the way, your art teacher called. She wants to enter your latest piece in the state competition." My art had transformed since coming here. The piece she mentioned was a mixed media work titled Invisible Symptoms, a visual representation of living with a dismissed medical condition. I also think you get to decide what role, if any, he plays in your life going forward. That was the biggest change since the cafeteria incident, having the power to make my own choices, especially about my health and safety. My new allergist had explained that some allergy sufferers develop PTSD from severe reactions, particularly when they've been denied proper medical care. We were working through that in therapy, along with the years of gaslighting about my condition. But there were victories too. Last week, I'd successfully handled a potential exposure at school. Instead of freezing in panic or doubting myself, I calmly used my emergency action plan. My teachers had responded immediately, and the whole incident was handled without drama, just appropriate medical attention for a legitimate condition. Looking at Noah's text again, I typed my response: I need time. Maybe one day we can talk about it with our therapists present. Aunt Kimberly squeezed my shoulder proudly. Look at you setting healthy boundaries. That night, adding to my journal, another tool my therapist recommended, I reflected on how much had changed. The scared girl from the cafeteria who had no voice was gone. In her place was someone stronger, someone who knew her truth and wasn't afraid to speak it. My severe allergic reaction had broken open a family system of denial and neglect, but my actions afterward had ensured the change was permanent. By refusing to remain silent, by distributing that footage to everyone who needed to see it, I had rebuilt my life on my own terms. Now, surrounded by people who believed and protected me, with the court finalizing my permanent custody arrangement with Aunt Kimberly next month, I was finally learning what real family support looked like. And my allergies? They were just part of who I was. Not a weakness to hide or deny, but a reality to be respected and managed, just like they should have been all along.